Good afternoon. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is FM. With me today, I'm going to blow smoke, mate, a fintech legend. I've got Glen Foster. How's it going, man?
Dale, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. The reason why you're a fintech legend is you worked for, and for a very long time, Xero, a company that disrupted the market 10, 15 years ago, absolute game changer, and you were with them for quite a while, correct?
I was slightly uneasy with the term legend, but thank you. But yes, I spent about 12 and a half years there.
Okay. So first question I kind of want to ask you, and it's on your LinkedIn profile. You went from a sales associate, as it were, to running sales pretty quickly. How did you find that change from having to be someone who might be like hunting or farming or sourcing leads, the conventional terms within sales, to maybe running the show and managing a team?
Uh, Honestly, I think I'm a better manager than I am salesperson.
Okay.
I certainly enjoy that part quite a bit. So I think I was lucky enough to get in pretty early at Xero and spend a couple of years just like out on the front line talking to accountants and business owners, and really enjoyed that. And did okay. And thankfully the opportunity came up to develop and grow with the business as it does, right? One of the reasons people join startups is because they get that opportunity to grow with the business.
Yep.
And I was lucky enough to get that opportunity and take it on. And as we started like hiring more people, and I think we were about 8 people at the time when we got our first office. It was maybe 2.5 years into my time. It's about 2013, maybe 2012, 2013. And we got to the point where Gary, the MD at the time, was like, now we're ready. We need to add some more people. We got our first little physical office space and kind of went from there. And kind of I grabbed the opportunity to start to lead a small team and scale the business out a little bit. And you do okay at that. And naturally you step up a little bit further and a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, because from a professional and industry perspective, you're most well known for Xero, but that was not your first kind of fintech arena, right? You worked for Wolters Kluwer, so a massive business. When you moved from companies like Wolters Kluwer to Xero, how did it feel? Was it exciting, scary, fun?
Yeah, they're very different businesses. So actually, like Wolters Kluwer have gone through some modernization, I think, over the last few years, but it was quite corporate and I don't want to say old fashioned, but I will do. So there we go, old fashioned.
It's out there. It's out there.
I'm sure we had to wear suits in the office back then. But Xero is very, very different. Like when I got interviewed by Gary, like he turned up in, I'm pretty sure, sandals and a t-shirt, and I was in a full suit. It was Christmas time. Like we were having a coffee and a mince pie in a hotel lobby. So yeah, it was a very different world. And obviously the product set and the brand that Xero cultivated is very different, right? So yeah, it was different, but the opportunity came up, and I do remember I had like a job, right? Steady job, private medical, all the stuff that you want, right? As a sales rep, like I was doing all right. We could pay the bill, and if Netflix existed, I would have been able to afford a Netflix subscription. That kind of stuff, right? The sign of status that exists.
Giving away your age there, Glenn. If Netflix existed, was it Love Film at your time, or you remember in Blockbuster?
Yeah, no, a bit of both, right? So yes, I remember both of those vividly, and I was old enough to drive to both of them and acquire. Well, not Love Film. I didn't drive there; they popped it through the door.
Yeah.
But yes, and I remember like going to that first interview, being like, okay, well, look, I'd been introduced to Gary. This seems cool brand. I'll go and have a chat. It was actually Darren Glanville, who's been on here, I think, introduced me. I worked with Darren previously, and he just gave me a call and said they're looking for somebody. Had coffee with Gary, and I remember leaving and calling my now wife. He thankfully isn't divorcing me. Thank you for moving this session. And said, holy crap, can I say that? I really want, I really want like this job. So it was interesting. But after that, like another coffee with Gary, and before you know it, you're literally, I'm not like a couple of months later starting in this new job at this new tech company, and like with no private medical, very few benefits, a laptop exchange and a McDonald's on a Sunday night with a BlackBerry. and like, off you go the next day. And so it was really quite strange, quite odd. I think startups are much more sophisticated now in the way that they onboard and bring people in, but nevertheless, it was like character building, great learning curve, and thankfully, like turned out really well.
Okay, okay. I want to go back to something you said a little bit before. You said you make a better sales manager than you do a salesperson. In your experience, what makes a good salesperson, and what makes a good sales manager?
Well, look, I think some of the qualities are similar. You often hear about people say, don't put like great salespeople don't make great sales leaders. I don't necessarily buy into that. It's maybe true every now and again, but there's definitely similar qualities. And I think the key one is always that, like, just being like naturally or genuinely, like, we can call it curious, right? But it's probably nosy. Like really wanting to know things.
Inquisitive.
There you go. We'll go with inquisitive.
Yeah.
And I think some of those skills and some of that nature is just like naturally in people, because those good qualities of a good sales leader and a good salesperson are the ability to delve down into multiple layers of a question. Like we can all ask, like you hear of discovery, right? We can all ask a discovery question. What like average salespeople do is they move on to the next question and they don't probe and delve deeper into that. And when you're coaching like people as a manager, some of that stuff's the same. Like we can all ask like how are you getting on, or we can listen to a call and we can ask their opinion. But actually, if you can't delve down into that second, third, and fourth layer and really understand more about what's going on, then you never really get the value that you would want from the individual who's being coached and led by the leader. Equally, the customer who's like having to then come out and say, well, yeah, actually, you're right. Like these are the real problems I've got. This is the impact that it's having on my business or me as a person, and I don't quite know how to fix that. So that I think it's that natural curiosity, and just that desire to learn and understand more.
That's cool. And in my mind, that draws parallels to some of the shift that's happening in the bookkeeping and accounting space when it comes to advisory services. I think some of the best advisors I've seen from the accounting and bookkeeping space are the ones who might look at a conventional set of data, right? I give an example. One of my colleagues did this the other day. They were doing the accounts and they saw like the payroll had changed an awful lot over 6 months, as in staff retention wasn't very good. And they asked the question, like, what's going on? And a simple answer would be bad management, right? But they actually took the time to speak to the client, actually speak to some of their team. And I kid you not, doesn't mean just blow my trumpet, it was a systems issue. They had some kind of process on their CRM which just made it virtually impossible for anyone to log anything. And people were just like, I'm fed up with this, and they get poached by a competitor. This is particularly predominantly a sales role where turnover of staff is faster. But what was really cool about that is someone dug a little bit deeper and said, actually, this is something that could change. And yeah, it's had an impact on the business. So I kind of get what you're saying. But yeah, I have to give a shout out to Randy House, by the way. He's watching from the US. He's a good 6 hours behind us. Thanks, Randy. I'm sorry that you've got hurricanes. That's not good, man. Keep your head down. Stay safe. Okay. I'm trying to see. Let me see if I can ask you a silly question. Now, I know I've actually asked you the biscuit question before, but that was many, many years ago. So I'm going to ask it to you again, if you don't mind.
What, my favorite biscuit?
No, that's too easy. That's too easy.
Okay.
If you were a biscuit, what kind of biscuit would you be that accurately portrays your personality and why? But don't just pick your favorite biscuit.
Oh.
The sigh.
I don't know. I think maybe can I be a pink wafer? Like classic.
Any biscuit you want.
Is that is a biscuit? Is a wafer?
It's technically not a biscuit, but it's in the biscuit section. We'll allow it.
I think if you go with something that's not a biscuit and you claim it's a biscuit, that kind of means that like you're innovative, right? I'm going to go with that anyway. So I'm going with a pink wafer because I'm classic and a bit overrated probably. Actually, overrated.
That's a sign of a good salesperson. Some humility. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not sure Randy will know what a pink wafer is, so I don't know if that makes its way over to the US.
You know what? I would argue that the US have got a better biscuit game than we do, or sorry, cookie game. They've got so much variety. In saying that, I saw a pack of Oreo cereal the other day, and I feel like that can't be right. That can't be healthy.
I think most cereal is not healthy, right? It's just
Yeah,
good
true.
marketing.
It is marketed as healthy though. It's full of vitamins and riboflavin and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Okay. I'm always interested when I do these looking at people's backgrounds. So first of all, is that a bonsai tree behind you?
Yes, it's not
Y-
technically a real one. I did have a real one, but I killed it.
Ah,
So it's gone. But yes, it is. Does it look real?
it, I mean, yeah, it looks real to me.
Good.
How long did you have the real one for?
Yeah, well, look, it held on for a while, but got progressively worse and worse. And then I tried to overwater it, and it leaked. So it's gone. It's actually outside. I work out of a garden office, so I'm pointing. So it's literally just like outside, sitting in the garden somewhere. I've got this like small vein of hope that it will just come back to life while leaving it in the garden.
It's possible. It is
I don't.
genuinely possible.
I don't think so.
Unlikely. Okay, next
Yes,
thing.
it is.
Behind your head on the screen, sorry, there is like a white thing. It's either like a lamp or a stormtrooper helmet. What is it?
It's a
It's
little
neither.
coffee.
A little coffee machine.
It's a little Dolce Gusto coffee machine for the times where I'm stuck going call to call in here, so I can load it up and get coffee without having to go into the house.
Savvy, savvy. And I have to ask, what kind of books are you behind you? Are they all business books? Are they entertainment? What are you reading at the moment? What's happening?
Yeah, they're all like autobiography or business books, really. So that tends to be the two things that I read.
Okay. And in that selection behind you, which one's your favorite?
Oh, I like so probably where's it gone? These two for the you probably can't see them. So the Five Dysfunctions of a Team by
Okay.
Patrick Lencioni. It's kind of like a Xero staple. A lot of the like cultural way the leadership team operated was built off that.
Mhm.
And Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Just because I'm not brave enough to go anywhere near the military, I like reading other people's stories of leadership within the military. So they're probably the two favorites.
Okay. Why would you recommend those books to other people? Like, what would you be looking for if you read those books?
I think like the Extreme Ownership one is like that's like proper like but success and failure, right? It's not like running a startup is tough, right? Growing a business is tough, but
Yep.
it really isn't life or death for most people. So I think like leadership within the military is just an interesting story, and actually hearing people's stories of what they did and how it was. I just find that super interesting. He's a great guy. I follow him on Instagram as well. So yeah, lots of good takeaways from that one. Like the Patrick Lencioni one, like the Five Dysfunctions of a Team is like we've probably all worked in teams that are dysfunctional.
Yep.
And I love the concept of how they like break that down, and like there's loads of good nuggets in the book. Like Patrick Lencioni's got quite a few books, like the Ideal Team Player. We used at Xero quite a bit around hiring, like really looking for people that were hungry, humble, and smart. Not intellectually smart, but like emotionally intelligent, smart. Like, and actually, if you had those three qualities, then it's highly likely you were like hireable. If you didn't have those three or one of those three qualities, then you might have struggled to be part of the team. With the team always being greater than individuals.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think ambition translates to seeking financial wealth, or can it be different things?
Do I think ambition leads to seeking financial wealth? I think, well, I think you can be ambitious about a number of different things, right? So, but maybe partly. I don't think it's not the only thing. Like lots of people are motivated by different things. There's plenty of people not motivated by wealth, and wealth is different to different people. I think some people may want to just like be ridiculously wealthy. Other people just want to be comfortable, right? To be able to pay their Love Film subscription and be able to drive to Blockbuster twice a week and pay the late payment fines if you take your video cassette back later on. Like maybe that's wealth to you, right? So I think different things. Not necessarily, but I think everyone's different, and they should be comfortable with whatever ambition feels like to them.
Okay. Very good callback, by the way. I like that. That was nice. That was nice. Okay. Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
Go for it.
Two personal questions. How many kids do you have?
I have two.
Which one's your favorite?
Oh, definitely the one born on the 1st of November. And as a father of twins, born on the same day.
I mean, see, the reason why I already knew that, and I was like, when you said the one born on the 1st of November, but I do know it is possible, let's be honest, to have twins and like, that midnight clock goes over and the next one's born on the next day.
Yeah, that'd be awkward, right? You ain't got to have two parties, I think. So you lose all the
You
benefits, right?
definitely give them twin birthdays regardless. Like that's, and do you know how I know this? I'm not a twin, but my sister, she's 3 years younger than me, and she has a birthday 2 days before mine, and we had joint birthday parties until I was about 10, and 10 is when I kicked off and went, I don't want to be hanging around with my sister's friends. So, yeah.
A few My Little Pony birthday parties in the Rodriguez household.
They were mixed. There was He-Man and My Little Pony at the same time. It was fantastic.
Feels like
amazing.
Right for a new cartoon.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move away from your 0 days for now. We might come back to that. I would like to know what's happening with you now. If you look on your LinkedIn profile, you have 3 or 4 different companies that you are working with, working for, consulting. Please tell me about what's happening now.
Yeah, so when I had my last role in June, kind of the plan was I didn't really know what I wanted to do next, like lots of grown-ups, I guess. And so I wanted to take a bit of time out, and I had some consulting opportunities, or one definitely lined up with the guys at Summa Tech. So I was going to do that through the summer and take it a little bit easier. And then a few more kind of came in, and I enjoy doing it. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. So I've kind of jumped in, and I'm helping 4 startups, scale-ups, like businesses at the minute. Most of them play in the small business / accounting technology area. And I pretty much give each one a day a week of time to help them out while I kind of work through what I may want to do for my next kind of full-time job. But so I haven't quite checked out as much as I would like. My wife reminds me of that quite often because the list of jobs that I had to tackle through the summer is still the same list of jobs.
Dare I ask, what kind of jobs are they? Are they like some DIY type jobs? Do you want to give specific things you haven't done, or
nothing too complex because my DIY skills aren't great. The good thing is I've managed to fill some holes that I drilled and had to fill the holes. I haven't got around to painting them yet, so I've done half a job, but still I can't quite cross it off the list. Nothing too complex. Equally, lots of small jobs that need to be done at some point, I guess. So I'm working. So you can see I've got my Nook t-shirt on today. Like Nook's accounts payable and payments company, and then the guys at HedgeFlows, Floodlight, and Summa Tech. So it's good fun. I feel like I'm helping, which is nice. It's nice to help, but equally I'm getting a lot back in the other direction by learning from those guys.
Yep.
So it's good, good fun. But that's what I'm doing.
Also, your wife can't get mad at you because you're procrastinating, but you're also earning money. Like if you weren't doing anything and earning money, like you just wouldn't be doing the house chores or housework. But
at some point, I'm gonna have to go and pay for a proper man or woman, right, to come around and do all the jobs that I can't do. So we will need money for that. So yes.
No, I confess that is one of my weaknesses. I'm not particularly handy or DIY savvy. I will save up and get someone to. Even when it comes to something as simple as painting, right? Like I've done painting, I've done my own house. But when you get someone who's a professional, like the finish, it's better to pay for it. It really is, in my humble opinion.
It's the same message, right? That the software companies and systems people deliver to businesses and accountants, right? It's like there's better people out there to take this workload on and pick it up. So lots of sense.
I mean, that's sales in general, isn't it?
Indeed. And it keeps the economy going, right? That whole small business economy going, where if we run out of painters and decorators, there's going to be like 50% of men that are really struggling with their life because they're going to have to figure out how they paint their house and deal with all that stuff.
Yep, and I would be one of those people. Okay, let's delve into the different companies you're working with at the moment. So you mentioned Nook, accounts payable. Is it a bit more than that? Can you give a quick summary for those who don't know?
Yeah, so they do so integrated with QuickBooks and Xero, and they take over like supplier payments, payroll payments, so you can kind of automate that process with approvals built over the top of it. So for business owners that need that control, or accountants and bookkeepers with like a virtual finance office, they kind of handle that whole process and then allow you to bulk pay employees or supplier bills.
Okay, Floodlight.
So
Testing
there's
it
some
out.
similarities. So yes, Floodlight Play in that accounts payable space, also virtual cards. So you can set up to 25 virtual cards that you give out to employees. So start to pull the expenses elements into it. Initially, kind of heavily focused on e-commerce businesses, but have kind of branched out as they've realised a lot of their customers aren't necessarily e-commerce businesses. But yeah, fairly early stage, Tel Aviv based, but like UK focused.
Cool. And I misread the name. You said Summa Tech. I thought it was Summa Tech, but Summa Tech, what do they do?
So they are a practice management add-on, effectively. So they do onboarding, so AML and onboarding plus portal.
Sorry, I'm listening, but I'm also laughing at the comments. Wonder who said this. Simon Lofts. Wow, Nook sounds awesome. Who is Simon Lofts?
He's the guy that gave me this beautiful t-shirt.
Yeah.
I didn't get left in a bar straight away.
Yeah, you've earned your pay today. Sorry, I interrupted you while you were talking about another. You were talking about Summa Tech. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So yeah, they do they class ourselves as practice management enhancement. So for like mid-tier and large accounting firms that are probably never going to remove their practice management system, Summa Tech sits on top of that for onboarding and AML. So integrated with like CCH. Carbon will be the next one, which is fairly close to going live, and then they'll move into the world of like Iris Practice Engine, like things like that. But really to automate and drive down the cost of onboarding new clients.
Yep.
They've got a portal product. My favorite product, desk booking. Doesn't get any attention, but it's great because so many accounting firms have gone back hybrid, and they've got like desk booking connected into your practice management system now, and even car parking, so you can like have car parking spaces booked and things like that. And then they'll build more product, but it's kind of built by a team of accountants in this offshoot from Carpenter Box. So they're building things that they know make their lives easier, and then effectively taking them to market, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Now, last but not least, HedgeFlows. What do they do?
Yeah, so HedgeFlows focus on so FX payments is part of what they do, but then a big part is the kind of pre-booking of currency and hedging. And like what I love about HedgeFlows is so for large businesses, enterprises, there's always been tech there, right, for allow them to pre-book currency and remove the risk of like rates moving around. Small businesses have never really done that. They've never had the tech or the tools to do that because it's always been too expensive. Products like HedgeFlows allow them to do that, and like there are lots of small businesses now, right, who are trading internationally and buying stuff from China, right? And by the time you stick it on the boat, by the time it gets here, like maybe your rates have changed, and suddenly you're like out of pocket more than you would have hoped to have been. And actually, had you pre-bought that currency and pre-booked that invoice, then you would have removed that risk element. So I love it, and it's quite unique, I think, in that space. I don't know anyone else that does that for SMBs, and that's what's attractive about it, because it's like moving into a new market, I think, for small businesses that in 5 years' time we'll probably find the vast majority of small businesses that are trading internationally are pre-booking currency, even if only at small levels.
Okay, 2 questions. You say SMB, I say SME. Any particular difference, or was it just the same thing, just different words mean the same thing, right?
You say potato, I say potato. I don't, but no.
I know what you mean. And the second question is linked to the question asked about your kids, and I don't want to get into too much trouble, but of the 4 businesses you just mentioned, which one's your favorite?
Oh, well, you've already told me that Simon's on the call, and he's got me this beautiful looking t-shirt, but so definitely not him.
And Fabio Ferreira is also on the call as well. He's already here.
Yeah, I think you'll find there's more Nook employees. So yeah, I love them all equally as I love my children.
I mean, you love the people you work with as much as you love your kids. I'm joking. That's not what you said. That's not what you said. That's not what you said. You die for your kids. You wouldn't die for these guys.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not what the consulting contract says. That's literally the only line.
Oh yeah, I assume the contract says we own your soul. Yeah. Anyway, no. Sorry. The problem is I think I'm funny. Okay. Next question. Semi-loaded. Best and worst thing about working in fintech?
I think the best thing is the pace, the velocity of change and things that are going on. Like, it's such a such a great industry, right? And wide. Right? It's not just accounting technology. There's loads going on, but that payments industry particularly is fast moving and can add real value to small businesses and accountants and bookkeepers. So that's probably the best thing. What's the worst? I don't know. There's not many bad things about it. I guess you could argue that the best thing is the pace and the worst thing is the pace, right? As things change so much, so you're constantly dealing with ambiguity. So it kind of depends on the day or the time of day, whether I love what I do or hate what I do to a certain degree. Maybe in the past, not so much now. But yeah, I think maybe the benefit is like the strength is also the weakness, which we always used to talk about with the Xero ecosystem of apps. One of the biggest strengths of Xero was there's 1,000 apps. The worst thing about the ecosystem is shit, there's 1,000 apps. How do I navigate that? So yeah, maybe the pace.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that second part kind of keeps me somewhat employed. So yeah, kind of helps. Okay, switching it back to some more Xero stuff, right? Obviously, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I need to know of all the SMT you work with at Xero, because they're all quite charismatic, Gary Turner, Steve Bamas, other people, who can hold their drink the best?
Not me. I also can't hold my tongue, which is part of the problem. I don't know if you've ever met Donna Torres.
I have not, unfortunately.
Look, she has giant hands. And when she hears this, she won't.
So did you say giant hands?
Giant hands, and I have I have small child hands as well, so she can tell you that. But Donna's literally the best drinker I've ever met in my whole life.
Yeah, holds it down.
Yeah, she ran direct sales and I was the GM for the small business division for a while. Then went to Plan Day, but yeah, I'm sure she's got keeping up drinking on her CV somewhere.
Cool. Again, similar vein of question. Who was the coolest person when you were working in Xero that you worked with? It can be any team member, any employee, anyone above you, anyone on the same level. Like who was literally the person that could just, effortlessly walk into the office and just be like, damn, that person's cool.
Cool. Other than me, clearly.
Yeah.
Accounting technology is not known for having the coolest of people, I guess. Begrudgingly, the name that comes to my mind is a guy called Ali McDonald.
Okay.
I hate that guy. I don't really.
No, I gathered that.
Yeah, but he's like annoyingly cool. Thankfully, shorter than me, which helps.
Yeah, it balances it out. I get it. Yeah, you can't have everything.
Also, worse at table tennis. So generally, he's worse in every facet except for the fact he's quite a bit cooler than me.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'm just going to double check my questions from earlier, make sure I cover those off. Oh, there you go. Here's another one. So I recently discovered that my demographic on the show has changed a little bit. There are some university students who watch this, which is fantastic. So I want to ask questions that might help them. So traditionally, the term sales or sales roles have been given a bad rep. Why would I, as a younger person, so maybe late teens, early 20s, want to get into sales, and how would I go about doing that?
Yeah, I think the world of sales has gone through quite a bit of change in the last 10 years. It's a little bit like the concept of the brand of accountants, right, is going through a bunch of change. I think sales has done the same. It was always that people think of double glazing and used car salespeople and things like that, and like put salespeople into the same box. But I think if you professionalize the role, then it's very different, right? It's about helping customers navigate change, get from A to B, like addressing key problems that businesses have. If you find the right people that aren't just focused on like commissions and selling, and there's lots of concepts now in sales roles, right, where they adopt the no commission model, right? You think of the Dan Pink Drive book, where he talks about you pretty much get the same outcome whether you pay commission or not. So there's lots of thinking around that. So I think it's just changed. And if you're a young person looking to get into sales, it's an opportunity to, first of all, you can earn a good living doing it.
Yep.
But equally, you can have a lot of fun. It's quite challenging, but sales isn't the only job in the world with targets in it, right? Everyone's job has targets. It just depends on what they are. Like you're an accountant, you usually have some kind of billing target, right? If you make it to partner, you've still got a new business target in lots of cases for bringing work in, right? It's like pretty much every job has targets or goals or objectives into it. Just maybe they're not quite as public and upfront as a sales target is for an individual.
Okay. Do you have a celebrity crush, and do you have a hall pass from your wife if you were to ever meet your celebrity crush?
We've not discussed that, so I think the past possibly doesn't exist. I don't know. I don't think I have a celebrity crush, do I? I probably do, but who would I say? So when I was younger, it was always. Do you remember Isla Fisher? I think she's married to Sacha Baron Cohen now. She was in Home and Away.
Okay.
Anyway, so there you go. There was, I think, as a young boy, it was her.
That's fair enough.
But I don't think the past exists, and I'm not prepared to ask.
No. I just I'm just trying to stir. Like I personally, I don't think the past should ever exist. Not judging those people who do, but like if you're monogamous in a committed relationship, doesn't matter how famous the person is, that's still cheating. For me, it's Salma Hayek, by the way. Like I think she's a genuinely beautiful human being. Also, she's not just pretty. Like I see her in interviews, and she seems to be quite funny and like And again, as a teenage boy, like From Dusk Till Dawn. Shouldn't have watched that when I was younger, but there we go.
I feel like if the past existed for me, it wouldn't make a huge amount of difference.
Oh no, that's the best. That's the best part as well. Like if you or I bumped into these very attractive women, like no amount of game that we have or lack thereof wouldn't make that happen. Like I'm well aware. Sorry, there's a random LinkedIn user that has said Nathan Keeley.
Yes, so he is Nathan of Box and Summa Tech. So Nathan's one of the partners at Carbon Box and the CEO of Summa Tech.
Thank you. He's got one of his staff to log in anonymously to say his name. I'm joking. That's obviously not happened.
Yeah, I have to refer to him as Mr. Keeley.
Love it. Okay. Jumping back to Xero stuff again, and I'm jumping around a lot here, sorry. Or not sorry, I like doing it. So you mentioned you went from the kind of the startup to scale up. There's one thing that very few people experience, and again, with your length of service of the business, Xero went IPO. So first and foremost, for the uninitiated, could you explain what IPO is?
Well, it's an initial public offer, right? So Xero is it's an interesting thing. Xero was public when I joined. So they were public in 2007, I think. And would have had like less than 2,000 customers. So most businesses work up to an IPO, right? They do like maybe they go venture capital and do Series A, some seed, A, B, C, D, or right up to whatever comes at the end, and then they IPO. Xero didn't. It IPO'd really, really early on. So yeah, slightly different model. I've never heard of that before. But Rod had a good network, I think, a great product idea, and managed to take the company public like really early on.
Fair enough. Do you think it makes a difference at all in company culture or not?
I don't think so to culture. Like I think Xero wouldn't be what Xero was if it didn't have the resources at hand to grow quickly. There's always that balancing, right, between giving away equity in your business versus how fast it's like being a small fish in a big pond. Had Xero not done that, maybe they would have done well in Australia and New Zealand, but not had the resources to be able to launch into the UK, take on the US, Canada, South Africa, and would have been a good business in Australia and New Zealand, but nowhere near the size they are right now. So I don't think it affects culture. Like the one difference you have in a public company is, like Gary always used to refer to, like this is like you hand your homework in twice a year. So it'll resonate now with the university students you've got on here, right, who are doing their dissertations. You kind of hand in your dissertation twice a year, and it gets like combed over by analysts and other people. And in 2010 and 2011, when I was there, like no one really commented or said very much. But then the business got bigger, and like now when they put out their half year and full year reports, like people are all over them, right? Looking for signs of success, failure, like what's going on within the business, because like Xero is a really transparent business when it does that, which I always like. Certainly like now I'm not there, but when you're in there, it's literally, they share a huge amount of detail on how that business is progressing.
Okay. And sorry, in that answer you mentioned about resourcing. I want to touch on that a little bit. Was that ever an issue for you in terms of sales capacity at Xero? Because I know obviously they're saying people buy people. Was it hard getting good salespeople, or was the market inundated, or did Xero have a specific sales style that you had to kind of help people lean towards, or was it, as you said before, you picked people on certain kind of values or attributes they had, so they kind of slotted into the team? Sorry, that's a massive question with lots of caveats.
Yeah, it's probably not a simple answer. I think what happens is like the people that you hire change over a period of time. Like the first people we brought in to drive sales were people that were quite happy with ambiguity, and like really, like they were people that just really wanted to work for Xero, and they were really passionate about what they did. So you'll know people like Kat Bond and Andrew Collins and Rishi Upalia, right? Those kind of people that you just want in your business fairly early on, because you know that they'll look after your customers and they'll drive really, really hard. And then as you get bigger, roles get condensed down a little bit. Like you start to build proper position descriptions and like proper like goals and objectives around a role, and you need people that are maybe a bit more focused on that, or happy to do that, but wouldn't have been happy with the ambiguity.
Yeah.
So yeah, people kind of change, and like, as businesses grow, you need to kind of evolve like who you're bringing in. Like the one thing that was always top of mind at Xero was that like the community was the most important thing to the business. So you had to bring people in that added value to that community, right? So it's the concept of that no dickhead policy, but we never would have brought dickheads in anyway. But equally, to be really comfortable that the people coming in would contribute positively to the accounting community we've got, but equally to the company, like the company culture. Because again, like when you're in there, people refer to it right as a that you drink the Kool-Aid, it's a cult, and it's not. It's just that they genuinely. I've been out for a while right now. They genuinely give a crap about their customers, and like businesses always have to do things that people don't like. They have to change prices and like cut off bits of product. Right? They've changed the reporting recently, and some people can understand, some people can't. You got to make tough calls in those businesses, but. I firmly believe I'm a customer now, right? So I invoice out of Xero. I'm a paying customer as well, which I'm still slightly annoyed about. I'll get over it.
Well, no, you can't be annoyed at that, because as a salesperson, no discounts, no matter how good or how famous, no discounts.
Indeed. So, but they genuinely do. They generally do. They care about that. So that was like you wanted to bring people in that added not only to the community of accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses there, but equally the team, because like when you're selling into kind of like the SMB world, like not enterprise, very rarely will a business be super successful off of a handful of individuals, because no one's going to turn up and land £1 million deal. Right? You need everybody to be performing at a certain level. So it is all about the team and the performance and the culture that you've got there, which make people want to share and work together and be part of a collective team that's successful, rather than I'm the salesperson of the year, or I've done this and that. So it's more about teamwork and focus.
Yeah.
And like the one value that the Xero have that has always been there and always resonated is human. It was always my favorite one, because it's just the way that the way you deal with your customers and the way you deal with your colleagues, right, in a really human way.
Okay, that's cool. Of all the Xero cons you've attended, I would say, did you get to do international ones, or did you do UK ones only?
I've done a New Zealand one.
Let's not count that one, because that's probably an adventure. Of all the UK Xero cons you've attended, which one was the best and why? And sorry, just to explain for people who aren't in the accounting space, XeroCon is an amazing accounting/fintech event that Xero hosts. It's like Comic-Con, but with more alcohol. It's pretty dope. And there's educational pieces as well. Please continue.
I think probably like the first one is like always a memory, right? We did it at the brewery, so much smaller scale than you're probably used to with the XL one, but it kind of felt like hey, look, we've got our own conference here, and there were maybe like 30 app partners there and like a bunch of the early stage Xero partners. So always got fond memories of the first one. But I think like the first one at Excel, I can't remember what year it would have been, but that's kind of where it really felt like the business was going somewhere, like was doing something like this giant stage. We were in Excel, like it'd all been custom fitted out. Like that was probably the favorite one. But they're all slightly different, right? And great events. It's just like huge networking, like good opportunity to see app partners that you don't always get to see or talk to. And I think they've always tried to be focused on it being it's a product conference, right? It's about like delivering this is what's coming down the road. Mm-hmm. You should walk away learning stuff from XeroCon. It can get a bad rep because you have to pay to go along. It's not cheap, right, to attend, but it's not a sales.
It's also not expensive though. Like it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. And I get the impression, I could be wrong. I don't think Xero make money off XeroCon. I think it's just they have a fee to give it value, right? That's my impression.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you if they make money or don't make money off of it. But it's not designed. It's not they're not an events company, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't do it as like grand as you do. You'd cut corners, and then there's lots of conferences, right, that are designed. They're events companies. That's their bread and butter. It's what they do. So you know that they're there to make some money. So they won't feed you, and the coffee's a bit crappy, and all that kind of stuff. Right? So they're not an events company.
I just want to caveat the previous guest I had on, events company / manager, not dissing that person.
It's just that it's actual business, right? Then that's what you've got to do to make some money. Like Xero is a software subscription business, so they want monthly recurring revenue off of software. So like, the event is used to educate and really help people understand the product, so that they'll use more of it in the future. But it's there to deliver value. So yeah, it's different, but great events. The events are down to the people that come along. And the one thing I think like Xero did pretty well. Again, better than anyone I've seen, is that community concept and the value that accountants and bookkeepers get. And you're in that world, you'll see it, right? There's just this network of accountants that are now like they're friends, or they're in networking groups together. They're sharing experiences and challenges because of the relationships they've built through being Xero partners. And yes, like bank feeds are great, right? Find and read code's freaking awesome, and all that kind of stuff. But actually, that bit. You could argue is the most valuable bit lots of accountants and bookkeepers have got from their relationship with Xero, which I think is what makes it a pretty special company, and has delivered on Rod and Hamish's vision. I think for community was always important, even when nobody knew who Xero were and you'd spelt it wrong.
Or spelled it right, because Xero spelled it wrong. Do you know, I've been dealing with Xero so much that even in my personal life, when I text the number 0, I use an X by mistake sometimes. Like, I don't even think it's wrong. You guys have branded me too hard. Like, you've just brainwashed me.
Yeah, you've made it right.
Yeah, I spell it with an X sometimes. It's really frustrating. Okay, another kind of more serious question. In the time that you've been in this space, accounting / fintech, bookkeeping, you've probably seen 1,000,001 apps rise and fall. And I guess this is why Nook and Floodlight and HedgeFlow and Summa have come to you for your advice and consultancy. But if there's anyone else watching, what is it that app vendors who want to partner with Xero, with QuickBooks, all that kind of stuff, what should they do? What should they not do? Again, I know this is a very broad question, and I think I have some answers to this myself, but I'd like to get your opinion because you're you. So yeah, what have you seen done well or not so well?
Well, look, I think it's a tough ask if you're a new app now and you want to try and build a commercial relationship with someone like Xero, QuickBooks, or Sage, right? Because their goals are different to what they would have been 10 years ago. And actually their partnerships are probably built off the back of larger organizations, like maybe it's PayPal or Stripe and people like that. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't get enormous value off of being part of that kind of Xero ecosystem. And I think that the first thing I always tend to recommend to people is the quality of your integration matters.
Okay.
All right. So you can build the bare basic integration, right? You can pull some information and send it back, but certainly when it comes to payments, and certainly that accounts payable side of it, it's You can integrate with lots more, right? You can integrate into payroll for Xero. You can auto reconcile the transaction when it goes back in to Xero, right? You can use that API to do more than just the bare minimum. And I think that can help you stand out when you're trying to market and scale your product out to accountants who are familiar with Xero, but may know other apps that have already done that. So I think just thinking hard about the experience your customers get is probably the most important thing, rather than just the tick box for we're integrated with Xero. We've got a badge on our website, we've been certified, but actually when people use it, they realize the integration's maybe not as powerful as it could be.
Okay. Would you say that's been like a differentiating or discerning factor between apps that have kind of skyrocketed and apps that maybe have not done so well or stagnated, or is that just one kind of small thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's the difference between skyrocketing and not, but it's probably the difference between someone picking your app versus another one. Like if you've got to go and click 2 buttons to do an action, and another app doesn't mean that you need to do that, then you're probably going to pick the one that means you don't have to click the buttons, because if that app's salesperson is sensible, they'll say, okay, well, it's 4 clicks per transaction. You do 100 transactions a month. You've got 50 clients that you want to put on. It takes 3 seconds to do the click, right?
That's many hours. Yeah.
Someone's got a beautiful slide that just says you put in 3 numbers and it throws out and says this is going to take you 9 hours a month to do that. You're going to charge £60 an hour, so this is how much it's going to cost you to do that. You'll automatically save that, right? Those simple kind of equations. So I think the experience, and it's the right thing to do, right? To really think long and hard about how you build a great end-to-end experience for your customer, because that will make their lives easier. And if you always approach everything like that, then you're probably going to build a really, really good app. And if you build a good app, people will. It's not rocket science, right? People will use it.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Okay, I'm going to start wrapping this up. But before we do, I'll ask you 2 questions. First of all, do you have any questions for me? And second of all, do you have any particular nuggets or gems of wisdom you kind of want to drop or broadcast about what you do?
A question for you. What your favorite app? You've used lots of them and know it. What's your, outside of like the GL products, like, what's your favorite app? You can have a couple if you really want.
I'm not going to pick one particular OCR provider, but for me, OCR, because that makes a difference for the accountants and bookkeepers, right? It's very cliche. Because they're not wasting time typing stuff in, they can actually take time and speak to their clients more often. And then from a client perspective, someone who's not worked in the accounting space my whole life but had to be a customer of accountants, like that, my accountant or bookkeeper recommending that to me and going, actually, if you take a picture on your phone, it comes to me. You don't have to worry about having that paperwork. Oh, by the way, that 7 years HMRC one, that's not just for me. That's for you as the client. I think OCR is one of the things that actually benefits everybody. Like some apps, more, there's more benefit to the accountant. They're going to kind of sell it. Some apps are just purely for the client, which again is not wrong, and they have a poor integration for the accounting software. But for me, OCR, generally speaking, is one of the ones that is the best, in my opinion. The biggest game changer.
Okay. So nice fence you're sitting on there. You asked me to pick between my children, and you won't even pick an OCR provider.
No. That's on you. You can ask me which one is my preferred provider. I'll happily tell you, but you didn't ask me that. Would you like me to say my preferred provider?
I'd love you to tell me your preferred provider.
Yeah, Dext Knee Receipt Bank.
Nice.
I know a lot of people don't like their price changes, but I did a little bit of testing on the different OCR providers based on some of the criteria we needed to KR. And I'm not going to say one was terrible and didn't work, but they all had their pros and cons. And for what we needed and what I prefer, Dext had the kind of the highest score, so to speak. We had a testing evaluation matrix, and Dext had most of the things we needed to do at a certain level. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Dext, but I'm often doing reviews of software providers. And by the way, software providers, if you're watching, I use anonymous names, I make fake email addresses, and I do it, and I test your products. So don't just think it's me from a certain accounting firm or so and so. No, I test stuff. Just it's my job to do that.
Good. Last question. So if to the software providers, I guess, that are out there and listening, I know I come knocking on your door quite often asking your advice. What's the number one thing a software provider can do best when they're approaching accounting firms to try and get them to look at their solution?
That is really good.
I feel like I should be the host one time and I should interview you.
Please do. Please do. It'd be fun. Um, what should software providers do to approach accounting firms? Make sure that the value proposition for both sides, the client and the accounting firm, is clear, very, very clear. Don't expect the accounting firm to sell your product for you. That's just lazy. Um, and make sure you've got some collateral that can explain it. I know some of the processes and systems that vendors provide are complex. By their own nature, approvals can be complex. But if you can have a very simple value proposition, it does this, and this is how we'll help you do it, and this is how we help you with the clients. That's the strongest sale I've ever had from a vendor. Yeah, and it's going back to what you said about people and culture. And you mentioned some people you work with, Cat Bond, Rishi. Those kind of account managers, well, are worth their weight in gold because they're the people that make you feel like you're looked after. I get approached by fintech suppliers all the time, and sometimes the differentiation is not to stroke my ego, but the attention and care that someone takes as a sales representative with account manager, to know our business, to know what we're doing, asking those deeper questions, like you say, being very good at sales, and go, oh, okay, actually, no, this is what question reviews are doing, this is why they're doing it. I'm not going to pester them for now. I'm not going to follow up for now because actually they've said that, and having that. So I didn't really give a very direct answer, but it's a combination of things. But yeah, mostly don't expect the accountant to sell your software, or don't expect the bookkeeper to sell your software. Ain't got time for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good. You asked me for a nugget of wisdom, the only one I've got, and it's not really linked to much that we've spoken about, but maybe culture and things like that, is like there's lots of times where being selfish isn't good, but being selfish over your own career development is the one time to do that. And I think that's in businesses, not even like Xero, in any business, right? How you develop within the business is prioritizing your own personal growth. But you have to do that yourself. There's my one tip or one nugget.
Fantastic. We're going to end it there. Glenn, honestly, thank you for taking the time to join me. I say it for one, I say it again. People like you taking time, half an hour, 45 minutes out of your day to talk to me, answer some questions, makes this show work. So thank you. I'm going to hit end button. If you could smile for a little bit, because there's like a 5-second delay, just so you don't have like a silly face as we're like edging out, that'd be